That's from the movie. It's this Paul Giamatti movie where Paul Giamatti is the best man for his best friend's wedding, and they go instead of doing a bachelor party, he and his friend go to wine country.
Let me guess. It was as good as it can for somebody drinking all that fun juice.
Well, I mean, the hilarity is that this guy is going to get married to this lady, and he's like getting his last minute itches out. So he's like sleeping with all these women, and one of the women is played by Sandra Oh, and she's a wine, she's a sommelier, which is a wine
Wine
connoisseur
specialist.
person. Yeah, specialist. And like Paul Giamatti, like he keeps on like his friend keeps on going back and like trying out her wines because he's flirting with the lady, and like Paul Giamatti is just at a certain point he's like, you know what? I don't care what you say. I'm not going. I'm not drinking any more damn Merlot. It's just hilarious. It's like, Paul Giamatti is one of my favorite unsung actors. He's like Paul Giamatti will never be a leading man because he's not good
He's.
looking.
I was about to make the joke that he's always the bride's. I mean, he's always the groom's partner.
I mean, there are
At least
some
in
movies
movies.
where he's like the main character and he gets the girl, but most of the time, like Paul Giamatti is not classically attractive, so he kind of doesn't really like
Get
he
the
doesn't get those roles.
Yeah. That's how I was feeling that he's always the groom's partner.
Well, he's always the friend.
Yeah.
He's the snarky friend. It's like John Cryer. John Cryer never gets the girls when he was in movies like back in the day. He never got the girl. He was always the best friend, and
Yeah.
that's just the way it is. That's film sometimes. But anyway, we're live. It's gonna be a shorter cast because we don't have the three musketeers aren't here. It's just the two of us, but we'll get through this. We have some good topics for tonight's cast. A bevy of topics, if you will. So we're going over. We're going to talk about our top 20 PS2 games, our favorite spin-off games, companies insulting consumers and why that's so wrong.
Oh boy.
The video game boss that made you say "F it" and turn off the game, and what is a bad movie you love watching. So before we go any further, I'll let Jewel introduce herself, and then we'll dive into these topics.
This is gonna be one of those weird days. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Ghostbusters Afterlife podcast. I am Joe Ray Alien Moonstar, and some people just want to open their mouth to insert their own foot.
Yeah, some people do. Um, and this is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor BS Busters. Let's dive into these stories. So, should we do the stories first and save our favorite top 20 PS2 games for the end, or do the top 20 PS2 games first?
Hmm. Let's get the stories out of the way, then we can at least get into the meat of it.
All right. Okay. So,
So who did stupid this week?
well, we had a couple of bad choices. The first one being companies insulting consumers and why that's so wrong.
Oh boy, that's a little bit of a hard punch right there, because usually you always know the phrase "the customer is always right,"
Yeah.
and while sometimes that is a double-edged sword, there's a reason that that phrase sometimes exists. Because if you insult your customer, well, your customer is going to look for something else, or will speak with their wallet. Care to give an example, Red?
Well, the hilarious thing about all these companies who are doing things that that their consumers don't like is what they don't seem to understand is that like when you're a business, you are fighting for your consumers' money. No matter what business it is. Like if it's a grocery store, a gas station, a video game company, a console manufacturer, they're all fighting for your money. And your money is a finite resource. And typically speaking, you give your money to the company who's going to give you the most bang for your buck and or do things that you right? Like
Yeah.
like people will buy a Nintendo product and play Nintendo games. Uh I'm not going to say Nintendo is the best about listening to consumers all the time, but you buy a Nintendo product for what you're going to get. You're going to get some Dynamite first party games, some Dynamite second party games, some decent third party exclusives sometimes.
When they're done right.
Well, that's why I said sometimes. Sometimes, that's the qualifier. Sometimes, because sometimes you get some trash, but sometimes you get good stuff. Now, back in the day, like during the third, fourth, fifth generation, when you had third party exclusives, they were awesome. Even up to the seventh gen on the Wii, you had some pretty damn good third party exclusives.
Yeah. Though, if anything, keep in mind that with such products of third parties, there's always going to be that gamble of either you rolling double 12s, double sixes, or snake eyes.
Well, I mean, like I said, sometimes you get I can name some Dynamite third-party games from for all of the Nintendo consoles. Everyone knows on the fourth gen you had stuff like ActRaiser, Final Fantasy, the Dragon Quest titles in the fourth gen. You had Final Fight, UK Squadron, sorry, UN Squadron, Batman Returns. Like that was the third and fourth gen were the golden age of third-party games on systems. But even into the fifth gen, when Nintendo lost a lot of third-party support, there were some third-party games on the N64 that were friggin' awesome.
Most likely by Rare, but yeah.
Well, at that point, Rare was like a second party, so I don't like to consider them third party during the N64 generation. But I mean, like you had some great games from Atlas, like Ogre Battle. You had great games like Mischief Makers from Treasure.
Oh yeah, Mischief Makers.
Bang Eye Spirits. Bang IO, which was on the N64. Goemon's Great Adventure on the. I mean, there were good. There were still good games on the system. Like people are like, oh no, third party support. Like there were some good third party games on the system. I don't want to make it sound like there was nothing on there.
Yeah,
It's just
saying,
you know.
It's hard to find at times.
I mean, it was lower than it was in the previous two generations, like the third and fourth, but there was still there. It's just the only IP that was really missing off of the N64 were quality beat 'em ups and RPGs. Like if you wanted an RPG or a quality beat 'em up on the N64, you were SOL and JWF because the RPGs that were on that system were they fell into two categories. Something that like in the grand scheme of things was kind of like mid tier, but it's all you had, so you thought it was great. Which is Paper Mario. And then
you had stuff like Quest 64.
Yeah, then you had stuff that you had to dig deep to find redeeming features about it. In some way, shape, or form. Like Quest 64 is not a great RPG, but there are some really good things in there. I think that the hardware limitations, the memory limitations of the cartridges at the time really kind of held that game back.
I honestly think Quest 64 could have done more of some space.
That's what I'm saying. If Quest 64 had a bigger cartridge, I think, or at least been on a disc, I think there would have been more memory to have more content. Because the battle system's actually pretty damn revolutionary for that game. and how you leveled up and gained new skills and abilities. And had it had more typical RPG trappings, it could have been a great game. But because it was on a cartridge and it was new
The battle
hardware,
system was weird.
yeah, the memory system, like for third parties, I mean, there's a documentary on YouTube that you can look up where basically, like, Factor 5 had to reverse engineer the software development kit for the N64 for other studios to develop for that system. Now, I like Nintendo, but if the only developers who can actually work on your system are your first party developers, like they're the only ones who can use the SDK, that is a fucked system.
I was about to say, if if that's that hard to program for something, then that kind of bites. So that reminds me of
Sega Saturn
I was going to say
and
some
the
of the other
Jaguar.
systems that that had such a hard time programming, and yet people tried to say, we could do this.
Yeah,
We could do this.
it was the Jaguar and the Sega Saturn. So the Sega Saturn, like in Japan, Sega still had a lot of cash, so they could still. When I say cash, I don't mean money. I mean like cash is in a surplus of goods and goodwill with developers. So the Sega Saturn still got some really good games in Japan. But in America, like a lot of the ports, that you got for the Sega Saturn in America were um, like they were handled by Sega or companies that Sega were friends with. And like I said, if the only way your system, if the only people who know how to use your system's hardware, your software development kit, are your own companies, your own internal development studios, that's a problem because you want third parties on your like the only console manufacturer who can carry a console by themselves with almost no third party support is Nintendo, and even that can only take you so far, as we saw with the Wii U. Um, but back to the third party thing. Yeah, there were good third party games on like all the systems. Like the N64, aside from RPGs and quality beat 'em ups, had some great games on the system. The GameCube had some great third party games, third party exclusives. Um, you shouldn't let people tell you, oh well, there there's always, I mean, I would say up until the eighth gen, where third parties just tried to port a whole bunch of shit that was on from the seventh gen onto the Wii U. That's when it got kind of like, okay, like this is not working. Um, but yeah. Um, but back to big companies not getting it. Yeah, big companies just aren't really getting it. They're kind of starting with Ubisoft with this NFT bullshit. They've basically
Oh, brother.
uh,
That
not the CEO, but a COO, still high up there, who apparently is in charge of this NFT initiative, if you will, basically popped up and was like, "Hey guys, gamers just don't get it." It's like, no, we get it. We totally get it. Like, we
I'm
totally
sorry.
get you're trying to fuck us.
That line feels like it's out of The Simpsons with the Seymour image.
Well, it sounds like Shokio. Nintendo just don't get it. No, you don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, here NFTs are basically just like these are the bad versions of trading cards, and say bad because this is the kind of trading card that you'll likely lose once the servers drop their payload off.
Well, the thing is, I'm not against.
You're not against NFTs?
No, no, no. My issue is this: I'm not against companies trying to make money because if you're a business, you have to turn a profit. My problem is that
That's logic. Yeah.
well, I mean, if you have a for-profit business, you have to turn a profit. And here's the dirty little secret: even nonprofits, which ostensibly on the surface seem like, oh, well, we're a nonprofit, we're not trying to make a profit. Nonprofits have to be solvent. Even they have to turn a profit, ironically. Um, so, the only institutions that don't have to run that it's okay if they're losing money are government-run institutions that are inherently infrastructural, either inherently directly or indirectly infrastructural. So, like, if a school district is losing money, it's no problem. It's supposed to lose money. You shouldn't be making money off of public schooling. A free and public road a free and public road is always going to lose money because it's paid for by the taxpayers, and it's always going to be going down and being needed to be repaired and stuff like that. You're never going to make money off of it because it's a free and public road. It's not a profit driven endeavor. But like, but this guy's like, okay, like, people just don't know. We totally get it. Ubisoft, Konami, you guys want to basically get in on the ground floor of non-fungible transactions. Okay? Do you know what that means? Non-fungible means that you can't directly, like, there's no marketplace to sell it. Like, if someone sells you an NFT, you can't take that good and sell it to someone else. You can sell...
It's like a casino chip in a sense.
No.
Wait, it's worse than a casino chip?
No, a casino chip, if you have a black casino chip, you can take that casino chip to any other casino and cash it in. Any other casino.
NFTs are worse than a casino chip.
Yeah, NFTs are worse because, like, okay, an NFT... You don't even if you buy an NFT, you don't own, like, let's say you get an NFT of an artwork. You don't own that artwork. You own a receipt that you spent money on that artwork. The receipt is what you spent the money on. You still don't own the artwork.
Yeah, that is worse. I was just trying to think of what is the equivalent of that.
There is no equivalent. This is entirely something new. This is uncharted territory for us gamers. And the fact that all these companies keep on trying to jump in on this, NFTs, it's like, clearly what happened is that, like, in 2021, you guys heard that NFTs were going to be a thing. Someone on your board of staff or some shit like that was like, NFTs are going to be a thing. And essentially, you were like, hey, you know what? We should jump in on that. And you guys probably allocated a working budget, and now you're trying to sell people on the shit. Unfortunately, like, gamers are tired of being bent over and taken advantage of.
And you're right. I was trying to think of what could be least equivalent to how bad NFTs are, but if it's a league of its own, yeah, that's a new standard of low quality merchandise.
No, NFTs is something brand new. We've never seen anything like this before. Like some people are trying to compare NFTs to stocks, but they aren't.
I was gonna say, at least the stocks you could actually buy out.
Well, not just that. There are regulations for stocks. If you buy 20 shares of a company, that means that whatever percentage of that amount of shares add up to, you own that much of that company. Okay? So let's say I took my company and I didn't even make it public, but I said, okay, I'm going to create shares of my company. And I created, let's say, 300 shares. And I decided to sell people those shares. I could literally, like, those shares have value. People can could sell those shares. If I took my company and made it public and more people bought those shares would have value. People could trade those shares or sell them. Okay? They're like, you can't, there's no marketplace. Like, it's like the wild, wild west out there for NFTs, for shares. It's like, there is no central market. There is no central regulation. And because there's no central regulation, because there's no central market, like the Ubisoft executive who was talking about this, like, well, in the future, like all these people who keep on hyping up NFTs are like, in the future. People don't have time for that.
I was about to say, the future is moving at a faster pace than what this is going at.
I mean, that's like someone saying, hey, I'm going to take, that's like someone taking some crayon, right? And saying, here's a coupon for something that I'll give you in the future. And they hand it to you and they say, it's not worth anything right now, but in the future, you can trade it into me for something. That's basically what NFTs are right now. Except people are exchanging real money for this.
And by what I've been hearing, the only people that are trying to lift this price up is the people that are calling for NFTs to be purchasable.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, basically, the people who own shit that can basically they can turn into an NFT are the ones who are advocating NFTs. The people who like or have some stake in getting people to buy the shit. Like I haven't seen anyone who's actually looking at NFTs or like, oh yeah, this is totally who doesn't have a dog in the fight. Like the people who are on the outside looking in are like, this seems like some bullshit.
Yeah, that's as reliable as a fountain that works in Yosemite.
I mean, but the hilarious thing is the thing that made me basically say this guy is just so out of touch is he said, well, people can take ownership of their games. People already take fucking ownership of their games. Even digitally. Like, I know some people to say, well, you don't own your games if they're digital. You kind of sort of do. You own a license to play that game. Okay, so I'll give you an example, okay?
I was trying to say, really, who the beep says that?
Well, it's true because like a lot of people think that if you own a game digitally, it's less than owning a game physically, and you're right to an extent. A lot of games have online functionality, and even if you have the physical disc or cartridge or whatever, they have to connect to some bullshit to play it. It's not like it was 2 or 3 gens ago where everything was on the disc and you just play the damn game. Like a lot of games, even now, it's like, oh, well, it has to connect to a server and then all this shit. But if you own a game digitally, like, perfect example, okay? I have Skyrim, the original edition, the special edition, the legendary edition on Steam. Like I got that when it came out on Steam. It was on sale for like $20. That is the like Game of the Year edition where it comes with all the DLC and stuff like that. Bethesda, when they updated Skyrim to 64-bit, called it the Special Edition. Now, they delisted the Legendary Edition, but because I own a digital, I have the digital rights to play that game on Steam, I can go to Steam anytime I want to and re-download that game. As long as it's, in the database. That's still some form of ownership of something even digitally. And let's not go over, people who own things physically. Like if you physically have a book, you can read it anytime. It's yours. You can take it and give it to someone else and let them read it. You can take it and trade it in, whatever. Like,
you could do whatever you beep and want with the physical media, at least.
Yeah, you can. But then there's some shit you can do. There's benefits to digital media over physical media. Like for example, if I want to play,
Storage.
well, I mean, there's storage. There's also hacked versions of games. Like if I want to play a hacked version of Breath of Fire 2, yeah, I could take a ROM ripper, put my copy of Breath of Fire 2 in the ROM ripper, rip it, patch it, then put it back on the cartridge. But why? Why would I do that? Or I could just download a version of the game, patch it, and then play it using my EverDrive, which is easier.
I
Um,
was gonna say the only time that you ever do something like that would be out of necessity or practice.
well, I mean, there are some games that are fundamentally broken, like Final Fantasy II in America. Sorry, yeah, Final Fantasy II in America
Oh
is
yeah.
fundamentally kind of like there's a lot of it's censored. There's content missing. There's special abilities missing. So I mean, like we didn't know that at the time, but now looking back at it, if I was gonna play Final Fantasy II on my SNES, um, or even an SNES Classic, I would play a modded version of Final Fantasy IV versus the Final Fantasy II we had here in America. Because just why would I want to play the neutered version of that game? Same thing with Final Fantasy VI has censorship on it. Um, or even if you just want to play the modded version of Final Fantasy VI that adds new quests and changes up the story a little bit and adds new content and shit. It's like, well, there's a case for some things, digital being better for certain things, because it's really hard to mod a physical game. You can do it, but it's it's a pain in the ass, and I wouldn't recommend it. Um, but anyway, so what are your thoughts on this constant these people trying to sell people on NFTs, and do you think that it will work?
the only the only people I think that are gonna fall for are basically the people that already sunk their coin into NFTs,
I agree.
and hopefully it'll stay with those guys.
Well, I mean, hopefully they'll lose a lot of money, which if they lose a lot of money, then it'll be good.
As I said, I hope it stays with them. But well, I'm just letting it be as it may. And well, as I said, to those people that say that they're wrong about NFTs, might want to look in the mirror before saying that.
Yeah, the people who keep on saying that you don't get it. No, I totally get it. I totally fucking get. I totally get what I totally get what I totally get what you're doing. It's just not going to work. Like you're trying too hard, you know?
more like they're more like they're trying to be like Stretch Armstrong, reaching
Um
for something that's out of reach.
Well, not even that. It's like you can tell when someone's genuinely, well, not really, but you can tell a lot of times if you have experience dealing with people when someone's genuinely trying to tell you about a good product and when someone's trying to sell you on some shit. And most of the people you hear who are like, "Yeah, NFT, NFT," it's like, "Oh, you're trying to sell me on something." Like you don't genuinely really care about you know, cuz most of these people can't even explain what an NFT fucking is.
And if anybody's wondering yes, we both know what non-fungible tokens are.
And if you and I'm just gonna keep it real, if you can't even tell me what something is, but you want me to spend money on it, I have a problem.
I was about to say, you, they probably have a problem, but they're also trying. But you could probably sell them a bridge that leads over the edge of a cliff.
Now I mean me. If someone tried to sell me on a product and I asked, okay, well, what is it? And then they couldn't tell me what it is, I would be very suspect in putting my money into it. Because if you don't know what the fuck it is and you can't explain it to me, why should I give you my money?
and and I think that's a good time to head on to another spot.
Yeah. Which leads to our next topic, which is the video game boss that made you say, F this guy. Now, when I say a boss, I mean a enemy in a video game, not a video game CEO or president or anything like that.
I there's there's at least several bosses that could pull this off, but for me, I got at least two. One would be Ruby Weapon, and yes, I know this is a special boss, but I was trying to at least defeat every boss before defeating the final one, and Emerald and Ruby really made me want to say F it for a good while until I figured out a way to beat them.
I can
Though,
understand that.
yeah. Though for me, I kind of feel like when I reach into certain bosses that have a difficulty spike, the they have this one power that they always use for a countdown trap. I feel like it's those bosses especially that make me say, enough. I'm cutting this game off right now. I'm getting a drink, and I'm not coming back for some time.
Yeah, I,
You ran
I
into a boss that made you say that too, didn't you?
no, I didn't like the Ruby and Emerald weapons in Final Fantasy VII, but not for that reason. I didn't like them because I thought it was just kind of a shitty thing to do. Because like for me, when I play RPGs, I typically grind in order to overcome all obstacles. So by the time I grinded to beat those bosses, I was OP for the rest of the game. I was like, it's like, oh, Sephiroth, he's so bad, and I'd beat him really easily because I had grind to get to defeat like the optional bosses that are more powerful than the final boss. So it was kind of
Yeah,
like
I consider those two the secret bosses.
yeah. By the time you beat the optional bosses, like the way I played it, because like I said, I grind in RPGs to overpower my enemies. Like the final boss was a joke. I'm like, eh.
So this is going to be a bit of a spoiler for one of our other segments, at least my gold, silver, bronze one. But Grandia 2's special area before you fight the final boss. That one area that you have to try to go through. I really hate that spot. I mean, I always try to reach in there to try to do some grind, some stuff, or try to get all the treasure out of there. I always end up losing. I always end up needing to exit because the bosses and I mean the characters in there are so difficult that it makes me say, "You guys are throwing boss level characters at me. I might as well just leave and take care of the final boss already."
Yeah, but they do that a lot in RPGs. Because I remember Final Fantasy 6 and 5 did that, where like there were areas where it's like you're in the area leading up to the final boss, but there's all this awesome treasure around, And when you go in there, you're fighting like the Atma weapons and like Bahamut and Tiamat. It's like, come on, man. Don't.
I was gonna say those guys are kind of the douchebag traps that make you want to rage quit.
Yeah, it's like, or like Final Fantasy V was bad about this because there's this point in the game where you go to the other world and you're stranded on this island, and there's two pathways you can go down. There's one pathway that's the easy way, and then there's the hard pathway, but the hard pathway has this treasure chest at the end. But if you go down the hard pathway, you'll run into an adamantoise, which is like a high level, can one shot per attack one of your characters and has an insanely high defense. And it's like, why the fuck would you do this?
Who put this Roblox turtle in here?
Well, it's just one of those weird things that they do in RPGs. It's just they do it a lot, so I'm not really like... I'm not saying I'm cool with it. I'm just saying it happens a lot, so I can't really get angry about them doing it in a video game. But any other bosses you were like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I'm out. I'm out.
For a time, and this is for honestly a weird thing for me to say, a racing game. And you probably know him all too well. That freaking pig.
Which race? The first one or the second one?
When you're doing the karts.
Yeah, that first race is he's harder on the first race than he is on the second race. He really is. The first race when you're in the go-karts, he's really hard. I discovered
who we're talking about. It's Whizpig.
Yeah, Whizpig. The best way I discovered to beat Whizpig in Diddy Kong Racing was to play as Drumstick and get really good at drifting. Because Drumstick, especially if you use the rev your engine technique to get a higher top speed, Drumstick Drumstick has like the highest top speed in the game. But he's a heavy character, so his handling sucks. But if you factor in his high top speed and the revving engine technique in order to
to get at least a little bit of an edge ahead of him.
Yeah, in Diddy Kong Racing, the revving engine technique is where you just constantly tap A, and that basically once you're at your normal top speed, which makes your top speed go higher than it normally would, which means if you have a really fast character, it makes them go faster. Doesn't work that well for characters of high acceleration, but for fast characters, it makes them go a little bit faster than they normally would. But if you do that in conjunction with using like drifting and popping wheelies in order to make sharp turns, he's much easier. But if you're trying to play with one of the slower characters or a character who has a high acceleration but kind of a low top speed, Whizpig is fucking ridiculous.
He's a pain in the rear end.
Yeah, like that.
So, the real challenge is to do it with every single character.
I mean, if you want to. I kind of never did that because I was like, I really don't want to go through this with a high acceleration, low top speed character, because Whizpig's top speed is higher than almost every other character in the game except for maybe Drumstick. So then you're going to be playing a game of, okay, let me memorize where the zippers are and take my foot off the acceleration when I hit the zippers so I can get the best boost every time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The only characters I have never been able to do that with is with the heavyweights, except for Drumstick.
I mean, you can do it with the heavyweights. I've done it, but it's just it's more trouble than it's worth. It's not the best way to play. In my opinion, it's not the best way to beat Whizpig. There's a reason they tell you in the manual in Diddy Kong Racing that Drumstick was the mysterious champion that they placed all their hopes in. And you're like, yeah, Drumstick, he's kind of heavy, but then you race with him and you find out he's really fast, like insanely fast. The only character who's better than Drumstick is if you do all the TT trials and get TT. TT is insane because he's got the best racing stats out of every character. He's fast. he's like the fastest. He's a medium character, so he's got really good handling. He's got the best acceleration. Like, he's insane. I'm like, why did you save the island? Shit.
Yeah, that's the annoying part. TT is the one that is the fastest character, and yet you have to go through 4, 8, 12, 16. I
20.
mean 4, 8, 12, 16,
No, I think it's
20
24.
races.
Because you have to
24
go
races.
through the dinosaur world, the ice world,
I know. I was counting the worlds, and
the
I know
dinosaur
that
world, the ice world, the water world, um, the
4, 8,
dragon
12,
kingdom,
16.
and
I
then
was saying
space.
20. Yeah, I was saying 20 because that's how many racetracks you gotta beat.
Yeah,
At the end.
says 20. Yeah. Well, actually, it's double that because the mirror mode, the reverse tracks.
Oh,
So really, it's 40. It's 40. But that was a lot of
thank you
gameplay.
for reminding me.
Yeah, that was a lot of gameplay value for you. I would love a Diddy Kong Racing sequel, and for you people who are like, well, just make it like Mario Kart. Fuck that. I hate Mario Kart. I don't want Diddy
Yeah.
Kong Racing being like Mario Kart.
I was about to say, considering which one of the two lasted longer.
Yeah, but I mean, like Mario Kart lasted longer because Rare wasn't making Diddy Kong Racing anymore. They made one game, and then they left. They did other shit, you know. But which one? Like, I mean, yeah, Mario Kart's lasted longer, but which one had the better single player mode? Not Mario Kart. Which one had a more interesting? Which one had more interesting vehicles? Not Mario Kart. And I know you Mario Kart 8 fanboys. Well, you've got hover. You can hover. Yeah, that's cool and all, but Diddy Kong Racing had airplanes.
And if I remember right, airplanes are different beasts altogether.
Airplane to me, an airplane is cooler than fucking than a hovercraft, than anti-grav hovercrafts. I'm sorry, I just because that's what you have in Mario Kart 8. The big gimmick for Mario Kart 8 was you go on these parts of the track where your cart goes in anti-grav hovercraft mode, and you can hit into each other or these certain booster things and spin and go faster. Yeah, it's cool and all, but I'd rather have an airplane. It's like Sonic Racing 2, Racing Transformed. Like, that game has a portion where your car turns into an airplane and you can fly, and that's way cooler than like that hovercraft shit they did in Mario Kart 8. To me.
I was gonna say, in their defense though, they handle hovering better than Diddy Kong by miles.
Yeah, they do, because they had like in Diddy Kong Racing, the physics for hovercrafts weren't really that good, but I still, there were some good moments with the hovercraft, like doing the dinosaur land, the volcano level with hovercrafts is fun because you're hovercrafting, you're riding a hovercraft in lava. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Though, if anything, you should remember the reason why I would hate hovercrafts, and that
Yeah,
involves those two bosses.
yeah. The hovercrafts. Well, I mean, the hovercraft in the water level's not that bad because you can basically get weapons to attack the boss. The hovercraft in the level where you basically have to race downhill with a giant walrus is just ridiculous.
Yeah. I was saying the two bosses because one of those bosses loves to bubble your butt.
Yeah, the water boss. Yeah. The water boss is not like. I mean, it depends on how you're playing him. Like, if you try to get in front of him and you haven't figured out how to really use the hovercrafts, then he's kind of hard. If you have a character you're comfortable with and you know how to use that character with a hovercraft, he's not that bad. But it just depends on how you play. It's subjective, but I can see where people would have a problem with those two characters. But anyway, overall, yes, I would rather have a new Diddy Kong Racing than than another Mario Kart. I know they're
I
gonna
was
make
gonna
another
say,
Mario Kart. They're like
I was gonna say
11 games in, but
this is about bosses, mind you.
yeah. Hell, I'd love another Mario Kart where they're like the return of Whizpig. That'd be hilarious. Like if they did the return of Whizpig and they brought him back like Terminator style, where he's like all like cybernetic up. That'd be awesome.
Oh god, that would be a nightmare for some people,
Well, you have to.
especially if they pull what they did with Wizpig Round 1.
I mean, that'd be awesome. Like, and maybe add some more vehicles. That'd be cool. Like, in the first game, you had cars, hovercraft, and
Planes.
planes. So maybe add like maybe 2 more vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a sub for undersea races.
Undersea races. That should be weird. Funny.
I'd be cool
Weird.
with it, especially like because racing games have come so far from the 5th gen that they could do more with it. But that's just me. I didn't give my video game boss that made me say F this guy. Only one boss has made me say fuck it. And it's going to surprise you guys, but I don't really care. The boss that made me say F it and just like, I'm done, like, and I still have not beaten this game to this day, is the final boss in Persona 2 on the PlayStation.
I was gonna say, how much of a pain was he? Or they use Oko sniper shots.
Well, actually, I don't even know. I don't even know if it was the final boss. There's a certain point in the game where you fight a boss because like you have to remember, like Persona really didn't get like popular until Persona 2, Persona 3. Before then it was just called the Digital Devil Saga. And like when it first started, it was basically kind of like a slightly easier spinoff from Shin Megami Tensei. But even slightly easier for Shin Megami Tensei is still really hard. So, like this boss was just like everything I hit this dude with. He was just, it was just, he was not, he was changing his element, nullifying everything. So I was like, I'm not playing this anymore. And I turned it off and I erased the save, and I've never gone back to that game. So,
Ooh boy.
yeah.
At least with the bosses I faced, I had to get some heavy drinks and some time and patience before I went back to fight those guys.
Normally I would, but with Shin Megami Tensei or Digital Devil Saga 2, there's just certain bosses where I'm just like, I can't. I'm not gonna. I just not. No. And normally I can grind through a lot of, but like Shin Megami Tensei and Persona are RPGs where grinding doesn't really help you. Like you have to. It's more important for you to know enemy weaknesses and how to and how to exploit them versus, um, you know, because I've played Shin Megami Tensei games where I have basically like used a game genie to give myself super stats back in the day, and even then I was like struggling to beat some bosses. So stats don't really help you. Like leveling up and stats don't help you in Shin Megami Tensei like other RPGs. Like if you play a Final Fantasy and you don't even mess with your stats, you give yourself like a lot of money. You can grind through and kick a lot of ass that way. You cannot, and like Dragon. Same thing with Dragon Quest. Doesn't work the same way in Shin Megami Tensei.
I was gonna say some of those games I know they always make sure that you're on equal footing with some characters, which kind of makes grinding useless. Though, wouldn't that mean that you probably ran into the Grim Reaper a few times?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's the basically Shin Megami Tensei is the only game series where there's shit that happened. I was like, I can't. I give up.
Yeah. At least I can understand that.
So anyway, that's my opinion. I guess we can get to our third topic, which is what is a bad movie you love watching?
Hmm. Kind of funny that I would think of the Swan Princess at a time like this.
The
I mean,
Swamp
it's
what?
not terrible. Swan Princess. Anime. It's an animated movie, and while it isn't terrible, while it isn't the worst that you probably see of Disney knockoffs in a sense, it it does have its cheese.
All right.
Though that's probably just me. You read?
My one of my favorite old movies to watch that I just kind of like. It's bad, but I love it. Is Who's Harry Crumb? That's what I would do.
Go on.
Who's Harry Crumb is a film about like starring John Candy as the titular Harry Crumb. It's a parody of a detective noir film, but it's a comedy where Harry Crumb is this.
Can you help me? I'm trying.
He's this detective who his family started this like legendary law firm, and essentially he tries too hard and he gets in his own way, and eventually like the guy who's now the head of this detective firm essentially gets him because he knows he's a fuck up to fuck up the case so that because he's in with this guy's much younger hot wife played by Annie Potts, the same lady who played Janine in Ghostbusters 1 and 2, who kidnapped this rich guy's daughter. And so basically he's like, I'm gonna put my best man on it, and he sends Harry Crumb, who's a fuck up. But what he doesn't realize is that Harry Crumb goes with like he gets help from this guy's other daughter, and he actually turns out that like she helps him sharpen up his detective skills, so he becomes an even better detective.
I was going to make the joke that this is sounding like an Inspector Gadget moment.
It's kind of like Inspector Gadget, but it's really good.
My new card keeps telling me to turn right, but there isn't even a road there. It says that there's an update available.
So it's pretty good. I like it. It's one of my favorite bad movies that I love watching. Whenever I want to watch something stupid that's also just kind of hilarious. And the thing is like, as a kid, I liked it for the physical comedy, but as an adult, there's like a lot of adult jokes in it that I didn't get as a kid. Like, one of the big gags in the movie is that Harry Crumb wears disguises. And there's one where he goes to the... What?
I was actually one of them was that perverted.
Well, it's actually pretty funny. He goes to this...
So, the last step is on page 4 of the owner's manual. Once you do that, you're...
And,
Party?
Well, he goes to this beauty supply place.
Oh. Go on.
And he basically, he goes to this beauty supply place and he's like, okay, Like he goes in disguise as he's like, I'm from the home office. So he has this weird accent, like he's this guy from Europe with this hairy chest and a bald head. Well, he's like going around looking at stuff and messing around and asking this lady questions about what happened. But the hair on his chest falls off because it's glued on. He doesn't have a hairy chest. And it falls on this lady, this naked lady with a mud pack. It falls on her
Back.
No, on her genitals. It looks like her bush, okay? And then he picks it up and he puts it on his chin. So now he's got a beard. And the lady that he's talking to is like, "Didn't you have hair on your chest?" He's like, "No, I've always had hair on my face." It's hilarious. It's like a little joke. Like the movie is not great, but there's parts of it that are really funny.
I was trying to not laugh hard because that was a transition joke that just runs itself. Oh boy. That runs itself.
So anyway, Who's Harry Crumb? One of my favorite films. I really like it. And that's it. That's my favorite bad movie. It didn't do well at the box office, but I like it.
I bought this toy a few days ago and want to return it for a refund. I haven't opened the box. My son just doesn't like it.
Do you have your receipt or the card used to purchase it?
Yes, here's the receipt.
So, you know.
Yeah.
That's it. So here we are with our second to last topic, which is our favorite our favorite spin-off game. You go first.
Favorite spin-offs. If we're going spin-offs, I actually would go with I would go with the Mario sports games a little bit. So my pick would be the soccer one.
Mario Soccer?
Yeah.
All right. I like the Wario. I like the Wario Land series. That's my favorite. Yeah. That's one of my favorite Nintendo spin-offs because
I always go with the sports spin-offs because if anything they at least get me into something I usually am not getting into.
Yeah, I like the Wario Land spin-offs. Ironically, I don't really like most of Nintendo's like console sports spin-offs. I like the handheld ones because those are like more RPG-ish. But so, you know, that's my thing. Like I like Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land, I like Wario Land 2, Wario Land 3, Wario Land 4. I like all of them except for Wario Land Shake It. That one just didn't feel that good to play.
I was about to say, Shake It was for the GameCube, wasn't it?
No, Shake It was the one that was for the Wii. That had the really awesome graphics, but the gameplay kind of sucked.
Oh, yeah, I remember. It was kind of a weird game.
Thank you for calling Treats, Meats, and Beats. How can I help you?
This is the third time I've had to call about a missing order. No one can seem to help me or tell me where my order is.
Rile up some villains. That one.
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, the one that was on the GameCube was the one that was like a beat 'em up, except the main character was Wario. That one was pretty good. I like that one. It was made by Treasure.
Well,
it was like a beat 'em up.
I was gonna make the joke that should have been Hidden Treasure then.
No, actually, I have that game. It's actually pretty good. The only downside of that game is that when you pause it, Wario Wario goes nah 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 for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then at the end of it, he just goes sorry. So like Wario's an annoying asshole even in the game because that's who Wario is. He's an annoying asshole.
Well, what can you expect? He's greedy. He wants treasure. He gives as much respect. He gives as much respect as a Kremlin.
I mean, he's an asshole. I mean, that's one of the fun things about Wario is that he's an asshole.
An unashamed a-hole, no less.
I mean, he's, like Mario is a hero. Mario is a working man hero. His brother, for some reason, they turned Luigi into a coward. I don't know why, but Wario is an asshole. Like he's a greedy, selfish asshole, and that's what makes him fun.
I have noticed several charges that were made that I have no knowledge of.
Hero,
I apologize for the inconvenience. Do you have your credit card in your possession?
No, I can't seem to find it anywhere.
Anti-heroic greedy.
I have noticed.
Scary a-hole. What would that make Waluigi?
I ignore Waluigi because I don't like the character. But I mean, he's like Waluigi was created to be the Luigi's counterpart for Wario. So he's an asshole too. Like Waluigi's an asshole too. Except Waluigi is an asshole also to Wario. Like he'll screw over Wario too. So it's like one of those things where it's like
nobody's getting special treatment out of being a-hole. Kind of like that.
I mean,
Yeah. I said, well, I was just with Waluigi because if anything, we all know that somebody's going to mention him. Especially those people that say that he should be in a certain game. No, he shouldn't.
I mean, how can I put this? I'm not really all that into Waluigi. I've never liked Waluigi. I know some people are like, I want him in Smash Brothers. The thing is, we already have so many troll characters in Smash Brothers. We've got the Piranha Plant. We've got Wario. We've got Pac-Man. We've got the Duck Hunt dog. We've got there's so many troll characters, and that's just off the top of my head. There's other troll characters in the game. Do we really need Waluigi as another troll character when we have so many who already are troll characters? I don't think we do, but that's my own personal opinion. I could be wrong.
I was gonna say the next Smash hopefully will at least not have that many trolls.
I mean, I don't really care either way. I'm pretty much like I'm done. I'm done with Smash Brothers. It was fun. Like my favorite, like having played every game in the series from the start all the way till now, my favorite is the third game in the series, the middle of the series, if you will. So Brawl, and that's the top of my pyramid. It's all been downhill from there for me. So I don't think they're gonna get back to that. So. Fuck it. I'm done. I'll go play other shit.
Missing out. I'm just saying now.
I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Like, if a company, if a series starts making games in a way that you don't enjoy it, you don't have to continue hoping that it's gonna turn good again. It's like Pokemon fans who think that the current spate of games aren't that good. They're not scratching the itch that you want scratched. So you just stop playing it. It's nothing wrong.
I have, by the way.
So
I kept an eye on it, but I've done that.
For a lot of people, it doesn't bother them that Smash Brothers has become more more geared towards fighting game aficionados than being more casual. And that, I mean, they enjoy that. Me personally, I don't. So, as long as they continue down that path, I'm like, I don't need to play this game. That's okay. Like, here's the thing. There's so much shit to play. There's so many games to play. There's now we're now getting Smash knockoffs that some of which are not actually bad. Some of them are actually pretty good. So it's not like, oh my god, this is like there's nothing else out there like this. There's shit out there like it. So it's not like I'm missing out.
Hopefully
it's
it'll
like
not end up like PlayStation All Stars.
it's like Final Fantasy. It's like Final Fantasy, right? There was a time where I loved Final Fantasy. There was a time I loved it. Even 7, if you compare it to Final Fantasy now, I still would rather play Final Fantasy 7 Classic than Final Fantasy is right now. But there came a point where Final Fantasy started making games in a way that I did not appreciate or like. And I'm like, I can't play this franchise anymore. I just left it. I haven't played a Final Fantasy since. I mean, I've played Final Fantasy since, but I haven't owned a Final Fantasy. Like, I'll go to someone's house and play it and be like, can I get into this? No, fuck it. I'm not playing it. It's... when I drop a there are very few franchises that I drop and come back to, though. It's hard for me to come back to a franchise I drop. Which is, on me, because, like, once I drop a franchise, I'm like, I don't really need to come back here. I'm good. I'll go play something else. So I guess we can get to the major topic, which is our top 20 PS2 games. So if you're on a desert island, and somehow you had power, you couldn't get off the island, somehow you had shelter and power and a TV and a PS2, and you could bring 20 PS2 games with you, what would they be?
Oh boy. The tricky part for me is actually deciding on to be honest with you, I actually don't feel the top 20 would be good for me. And yes, I'm gonna be going to the top 3 for this. So my top 3 would be honestly a real tricky one, but I go Grandia 2. I mentioned this before, by the way, but even though Grandia 2 is a very difficult game in a sense to some, it's pretty neat. And I actually would want it as one of the games I take on island.
I don't think Grandia 2 is that hard, though.
Yeah. It's just that it depends on how you grind, because some people actually build their characters wrong with giving them certain abilities wrong and screwing it up.
I mean, I think Grandia Extreme would be a harder Grandia game. Because Grandia Extreme, like, the whole game, like, even when you think you beat it, like, all the enemies just get harder, the dungeons get harder. Like, like Grandia 2, if you have the right eggs and, like, level up your eggs, your elemental, your magic eggs, the game isn't...
That's the reason why I said that some people level up their eggs wrong.
But can you? Because as long as you have like a good like earthquake egg that gives you earthquake, which disrupts everybody on the time thing. How's it going, Kenoshi? I guess you're getting your connection straight. As long as you have a good elemental thing on your, as long as you have a good elemental egg and a good healing egg, you're good. Like everything else is just kind of like, maybe a wind egg that boosts your stats so you get like the double attack thing. It makes you move faster.
Sorry, I was having some technical problems.
No, it's okay, man. Everyone's ISP's been acting up this week, except for mine. They decided to mess up the week before last.
Well, I went out to dinner. So that's why I'm super late. I wasn't able to make the show.
That's okay, dude.
For the next one will probably be my Grand Theft Auto one, and yes, I have played it.
Which one? GTA 3, GTA Vice City, San Andreas.
I think Vice would be a good one.
Vice City has great music. I'm not gonna lie. Like if I could only take one GTA, like PS2 era GTA game, it would be a tough choice between Vice City and San Andreas. Because San Andreas has the better gameplay, but Vice City has the better music.
Yeah, for me, I feel like Vice City has the better groove for me, but it would be a hard choice.
Yeah, it'd be tough. How's
And my last one would be Soul Calibur 3.
I was with you until you said Soul Calibur 3. But
Yeah,
it's your list. It's your list.
I'm saying this because I didn't have many fighting games for PlayStation or for PlayStation 2.
I mean, there was Guilty Gear on the PS2. There was Garo X. There was Marvel vs. Capcom on there. On the Capcom Classic Collection. Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2.
And I'm saying this because if I could go for something of the PlayStation 1 era, it would be Rival Schools.
Everyone keeps on, like, I played Rival Schools. I don't see what the love affair is with it, but I'm gonna let people have it because I didn't play enough to really form a cogent opinion on it.
It's a unique taste of team up fighting game.
Yeah. So here's my list. I did 20. Some of these I'm going to take out because at the time this was just a list I just jotted down, and there's other games I want to put in there. So here's my list. My first one is Monica Mia 1 because the first game is better than the second one. Like they both use the same engine and they have a lot of the same characters, but the first one tells a better story than the second game. Dragon Quest VIII, Dark Cloud, Rogue Galaxy, Devil May Cry 2, Ratchet and Clank Going Commando, Jak and Daxter 3, Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy 12, Yakuza 1 and 2. I'm going to take out Konami Greatest Hits Collection 1 and 2 and put in GTA, Vice City, and San Andreas. Why choose one when you can have both? Capcom Greatest Hits Collection 1 and 2. I know that's cheating because you get a lot of games with that, but fuck it. Harvest Moon, Another Wonderful Life, Tulip, Katamari Damacy 1 and 2, and Steambot Chronicles. That's my top 20. There's more games. I could have added Maximo 1 and 2. Those two Maximo games that were on the PS2. And I almost did add those two games, but I was like, those games are really hard. And if I'm going to be stuck on a desert island with just a PS2 to play, I don't want to play games that are obsessively hard. And those Maximo games are really hard. Like, they're fun, but they're hard. They're like, y'all didn't have to make this game that damn hard. Anyway, since Kenoshi's here, I guess we can get to this bonus topic. So Rockstar has finally confirmed that GTA 6 is coming, which is the biggest open secret ever.
Yeah, it's one of the worst kept secrets ever. So look, I'm cynical about the whole thing just for the fact is that they needed something to take the bad taste out of people's mouths. It's really like, yeah, GTA 6 is coming, so that people, can, so the taste of the trilogy doesn't taste as bitter.
Well, I'll keep it real. After they fucked up the GTA trilogy, quote unquote, definitive edition, you're absolutely right. They're like, and then they spent like $7 billion to buy Zynga. Or was it, how much did they spend to buy Zynga? Let me look it up. Zynga acquisition price. Because it wasn't even a cash acquisition. It was 12.7. It was a stock swap. Sorry. It wasn't a cash acquisition, which tells you something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So, I mean, I'm like, eh. And if GTA 6 is going to be more like GTA 5, I'm not going to be interested in it because GTA 5 sucked. Yeah, I said it.
yeah.
Okay. It wasn't as bad as GTA 4 because at least I didn't have my aggravating, annoying Eastern European cousin calling me and fucking asking me to go bowling. Hey, cousin, let's go bowling. Shut the fuck up. But
I was about to say that you probably would send a bowling ball up his rear end, Saints Row style, if you could do that.
no, I didn't like GTA 4. I thought the expansions for GTA 4 were more interesting than the main game. Like Nico Bellic is one of the most underwhelming protagonists in a GTA game I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of people. I like Nico Bellic. Fuck him. And the Liberty City is the most uninteresting location for GTA ever. It was uninteresting when it was a top-down game, and it was uninteresting in GTA 3, and it was uninteresting in GTA 4. Liberty City sucks, okay? It's just fucking New York. That's all it is, okay? And people are going to be like, how can you say that? I graduated from University of Hartford. I went to school, literally, we would drive into New York sometimes. I've been to New York. It's a shitty city.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard people who've lived there and who've visited it. It's like trash everywhere. You'll have trash for miles.
It's dirty.
Piled up. It's a dirty ass city.
The only good thing about New
Not
York,
a fun place to live.
the only cool thing about New York is that if you know where to go, it has some great food. But you could say that about any place.
Yeah, I mean the thing about the nice part of New York is the places that you'll never be able to afford. So, like, if you want to live in New York and if you want to live comfortably in New York, it's the places that most of us will probably never be able to afford. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I have been to nice parts of New York because I mean, like I said, I had friends in college. I had a friend in college. His parents were loaded, and like we had a 2-week vacation. Well, it wasn't a vacation. There was asbestos in one of the buildings, and they had to shut it down. So we had 2 weeks, and I stayed with his family while we were off, and it was nice where his parents lived. It was like a nice brownstone, like really nice. It was like, it was really nice, and they were loaded. They were fucking loaded. But the thing is that like the nice parts of New York, like this was during the time when like
Things weren't shut down.
no, well, this is when I was in college. So this is like 2007. Yeah, 2007. So my last year. The big thing back then was this was when Rudy Giuliani was still mayor. Or Rudy Giuliani or some other. It was either Giuliani or Bloomberg, and they were still keeping that stop and frisk shit. And so I felt uncomfortable going into certain areas because the cops would fucking harass you if you were black. So I was like, I'm not fucking. The places I wanted to go, I couldn't go because I didn't want to be harassed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, there are some nice in the metropolitan areas, but like New York or San Francisco or even I've heard bad things about LA.
Well, I mean, every place has bad shit. Like if you live in the country, there's nothing around. Like if you want to go someplace worthwhile, you're driving miles and miles and miles. If you live in the
Yeah,
suburbs, you kind of have the best of both worlds. But if you live in the suburbs of someplace that's shitty, you still have to go a long ways away in order to go someplace where you want to go. If you live in the city, I mean, it's like there's trade-offs to everything. There's no perfect place to live.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm not trying to say that there's a perfect place. I'm just saying that there's places that are probably best to avoid versus, places that, are just decent places to live. Like, in the country, you mentioned the country. The thing you have to worry about harassing you is freaking coyotes and.
No, man. No, it depends on where you live. If you're a black person in the South or in the Midwest, there's rednecks.
Yeah.
There's rednecks. Look, listen. Rednecks are worse than look. A coyote might eat your cat. A redneck might drag your ass. Might kill you. So if you get rabies from a coyote bite, you're just gonna get some shots. If a redneck kills you, you're dead. But it's there's ups and downs for every place. Like if you live in the city and you have the right security system or the right cautious mindset, you'll be fine. If you live in the country and you have a good security set, to each his own. Like I have neighbors. There are people where I live who have houses that are like they have a huge property with woods and huge amounts of grass and meadows around them and a house, and they like that. I personally, I've never really been that into it because I think about having to mow all that grass. And I don't feel like getting a riding lawnmower just to mow my lawn. But everyone, to each his own. But, I will say this much, though. New York has some really good pizza, though. Really good pizza.
Yeah, Chicago pizza is kind of overrated.
Well, I mean, if you go to the right place, Chicago pizza can be good. But there's nothing because when I went to New York, when I spent those 2 weeks in New York, and the times I visited, they still had the dollar slice, where you could go to certain pizzerias and spend $1 and get a huge New York slice of cheese pizza. Oh man, there's nothing like a good dollar slice of pizza. It's the best. I remember seeing that thing where they were like, "Oh, Pizza Rat took that pizza." I'm like, "You're damn right, Pizza Rat took that New York pizza. New York pizza's great." I went to Katz's Deli where they have the famous chopped liver and the bagels. If you're a foodie, New York is a great place to visit because they have the Delmonico Club where they have the great Delmonico steaks and shit.
What about I think this is New York, the chopped cheese sandwich or whatever.
Oh yeah, they do that in New York. I mean, you go to any bodega that has a little delicatessen in the back with a flat top. They do the chopped cheese steak. It's okay. I mean, it's a hamburger that they basically put American cheese on, and then they chop it in there, and then they add some grilled onions and peppers if you want, and they put that on a hoagie roll and slice it in half. I'm like, that's nice and all, but I'd rather have a Philly cheesesteak. Why? Why fuck up a perfectly good hamburger when I could go down to Philly, or where I am when I was in college, go down to Philly, but when I was in where I live now, Philadelphia is a 2-3 hour drive. I can go to Philly and get a good Philly cheesesteak from the source.
Yeah.
Don't mess that up. But anyway. That's the end of the cast. Anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I just got Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I got the 4K Ultra HD. I'm ripping it right now, and the files are pretty big. Still almost 60 gigs.
Damn. That is ridiculous.
It's gonna be fun.
That is ridiculous. But I liked the movie. I saw it. I liked it. But that's just me. Joel, anything you want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Well, Not that I know of anything on the spot, but if anything, I'll promote you guys. Thank you for watching the BS Busters podcast. You can tune in every Wednesday and Saturday, or if you're with Kenoshi, every Tuesday.
Yeah, well, we'll be Project Console Tuesday 7:30. This week we will be talking about cheaters and Nintendo's thoughts on acquisitions and more.
This is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters. It's an indie cast. You'll see us again this Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we hold a magnifying glass up to BS and expose it for what it is. That's in the cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. We did not do A-hole of the week this week, but that's because I just didn't feel like, because it's obvious who's the A-hole of the week. So that's in the cast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, and